When writing to produce a variable document or a large document, I always use a concept called working papers, and I'd like to share that with you here today. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. If you want to be a more effective writer and you want to write better and larger assignments for clients, the working paper concept will help you both do better collaborative writing, but also get ideas down somewhere that you can then pull from the paper. So let me give you an example. I write technical reports for some of my clients. Some of them might be monthly business reviews or situational reports or analysis papers, might be risk management reports. These reports have multiple sources. So the inputs to the report come from a variety of people, places, and activities. And those final reports might be 5 slides. It could be a written report of findings. It could be a presentation at a meeting. So I have a variety of outcomes. So you might be writing a sales letter, for example, and the work that goes into that sales letter could create a sales letter, but it could also create lead generation pieces. It could create ads for pay-per-click. How do you effectively assemble these materials in draft, get feedback, and then have a good starting point for that final deliverable? Now, as a copywriter, that final deliverable, you don't want to write just the sales letter. You want to write two sales letters to A/B split. You want to write a sales letter plus a couple of lead pieces to drive leads to that particular sales letter. You want to do what's possible to set your customers up for success. Well, if you use the working paper concept that I can teach you in depth, but I'll give you an overview right now, but the working paper concept would give you a place to put all your audience research, all your reviews of previous controls, all your inputs from different stakeholders, your analysis of the audience. So you may survey an audience. What is the result of that survey? Everything goes into your working paper and is cited, referenced, and evidenced in the working paper. Now, this is very important. See, your final materials may not reference the 3 factors that influence the buying decision. Your final report may focus just on one of those factors. But if you've got to come back in the review cycle of the deliverable and the person says, well, what about this other thing? You don't want to start from scratch. So you can go back to your working paper. And again, it's a collection of materials and resources that go into the final product. Yet, as a collection point, it also gives you a place to test ideas, to extrapolate on something. Now, the working paper concept is an academic concept. Working papers are often the source material or the collection of materials for book chapters. So a lot of older copywriters would talk about writing a key idea on each index card. That way you can shuffle your index cards. Well, the whole stack of index cards is your working paper. You may have index cards that represent audience information. You may have index cards that represent key benefits. You may have index cards that represent the features of a product that for each of those index cards, you might write a set of headlines and a set of fascination bullet points. All of that stacked together becomes your working paper. Now, in a digital world, it's a little hard to syndicate or to send around index cards to people. Now, there are software products that we can talk about individually that make this easier. But again, the collection of those materials in one place becomes your working paper. And here's what's important. Your working paper has a version number so that as you go through the editorial reviews, as you go through feedback, as you're collecting meta information, and I'll give you some practical examples here shortly. But as you're going through there, you're keeping track of what's called the change controls. So who edited the document? What was a very high level of what they edited the document? Who's reviewing the document? Who was involved in the meetings for review? It has a administrative element in that you are keeping track of which version you're on. And this is useful because if you're going through the working paper and your client's saying, look, I see you understand our customer, but we want to talk about our 50 years in business and that our president has this kind of experience. And then, a lot of those factors aren't valuable. But if you don't take those down somewhere and capture them, your customer is going to feel like you're not paying attention. If you don't take them down somewhere and capture them and get agreement, they're going to come back with more stuff. So your working paper becomes a mechanism for moving the project forward. By using some kind of version control or change tracking, you're able then to show that you've captured the information that's important. But you can also pass that document around and have people put changes into it. And then the merging of that document into a final or a master copy is much easier than everybody writing on a hard copy, and then you have to go through the hard copy by hand. Using a working paper concept allows you to collect all your research in one place and then organize that research. I still like the index cards methods because you can then take an index cards and put them on a storyboard, but the context of what goes on that index card, where do you store that? Well, you store it in the working paper. Now, working papers are similar to manuscripts. You could end up with a working paper that has a draft version of the deliverable. So you may have, when I write articles, for example, I have a summary that's kind of the big idea of the article. I have the article in draft. And then after that, I may have a series of headlines that I want to test in the article, a series of facts that are extracted or could be considered in the article. And then I may have all my reference materials, because when I present an article or a concept, I want to make sure that I can answer additional questions the customer has. I can go back to the original facts and figures if I'm quoting something for credibility in the article. This working paper may be seen by reviewers. So you're writing a sales letter. Your working paper includes a draft of the sales letter, but it also includes other bullet points and fascinations. It includes audience profile. It includes a lot of other details about the context of that sales letter. Well, your customer may review that whole package to make sure that it's on par, and that's an actual deliverable to the customer, which would be an ongoing material, working paper that you will refresh and improve. I've got a customer avatar working paper that I've added to for 10 years now, and it's a massive document, 200 and some pages. But when I'm thinking about that customer, I can literally just scan through it and say, oh, look at this. It's been a trend in their industry to do X, Y, and Z. Am I covering that in the sales letter? Now, a working paper doesn't have to be fancy, and it is a draft. A working paper does have a copyright, and I would suggest as the copywriter that you own the right to that working paper. Because here's another factor too. If you follow the working paper method, of course, I can teach you the details of following it. It's part of our collaborative editing. But that working paper becomes intellectual property for your agency. So my avatar page, I've never given a customer all 250 pages of that avatar profile. It's for affluent customers. But a customer might come to me and say, look, I'd like a write-up of the key trends and concerns of affluent buyers for my product, and I'd like that set up in such a way that my internal copywriters can use it to write lead generation. See, I can go back to my reservoir, my working paper, and I can say, okay, for this industry, I can ask the working paper, for this industry, what elements are critical? And I can go through there. I could do a little additional research, expand the working paper. I could pull the key points, and then the deliverable to the client might be a 4-page briefing of the key concerns of affluent customers and their demographic in their product area and in their. But see, all my research is in one place. Working papers help you work faster. Working papers help you work better with a group of individuals. Working papers give you some kind of historical change control, so you can have an idea of how the product or how the deliverable evolves. Working papers can let you take a sales letter and then go ahead and draft out some lead generation pieces. Go ahead and capture the 100 headlines that you want to consider for that piece. The sales letter has been offered to the customer. They're happy with it. They come back to you and they say, look, we'd like some lead pieces, or we like some blog content, or we would like some pay-per-click ads. You simply go back to the working paper, extract the elements that you need. So now everything's still on theme. You wrote that letter 2 years ago. And now you're extracting from the working paper, and so you're still on theme. You're still congruent with the message. You can see what concepts you had about that customer when you wrote the original sales letter. Working papers are a unique competitive advantage for copywriters, marketers, and business development professionals. When I was doing business development, I actually I was discovering fuel site locations and then selling the owner of the location the opportunity to host a fuel network site. So basically the distributor would lease the land from hopefully a gas station that already had traffic, because we want to both get into their customer base and then bring them additional customers. But I had a working paper about all of the concerns and frustrations, every objection I ever got selling this opportunity, which is a multi-million-dollar opportunity of running a remote fuel station. Basically, I wrote down every objection so that when I would prepare for a meeting, I could simply go through all the objections that have been covered in the past. I had a little note about what I said in response. I prepared my presentation accordingly. And then when I sat down, I was an expert on that information because I had basically had a place to collect it. So again, let me summarize. Your working paper is a draft. It is a collection point. It is bringing together all of the elements you need to produce a specific deliverable, whether it be a technical paper, whether it be a presentation, whether it be a sales letter or a lead generation piece, whether it be blog content or a series of blog content. Your working paper brings together these materials in a pre-publication format so that you can capture evidence, citation, sources, factoids, different types of headlines that you might use, the different elements that you can then later sift, sort, organize to write a deliverable or finish a deliverable. The working paper concept is going to help you write faster. The working paper concept is going to allow you to work as a small team. I've given an assignment to an assistant, a research assistant, and I said, look, we're going to cover this product. Go ahead and compile the unique selling proposition of these competitors. And they went out and they, instead of giving me this separate piece of paper, they went out and they researched the competitors and they wrote the bullet points and they added them to the working paper. And working papers can get large. A working paper could be a directory that has the individual files in it, all organized in a certain way. But ultimately, I could then go back to that well and I could say, okay, well, look, we're selling against competitor A. Competitor A's unique proposition is this. What are our counterpoints? What is our positioning in relation to that? It's all in one place. Now, this does require you to be good at organizing information. Now, you might not think you're good at organizing information, but the working paper facilitates the organization. So your working paper might start out with a collection of information that later you work into book chapters. You might say, okay, well, I've written this product review and I've got these 4 other people who wrote product reviews. We're going to organize those in a way where we have a finished or a summary ahead of the individual reviews. That way, when you come back to write reviews for different platforms or you're writing reviews for a sales letter, you can go pick out of everything, but you've got this pyramid structure. You're starting with a summary and then key points and then expansion of those key points. Working papers is a powerful way to supercharge your writing, to go back and write on the same topic over and over again. And the last bonus kind of what a working paper does, and this leads right back into its original use, is that once your working paper gets a few hundred pages, like my work on affluent customers, you can then consult around that paper. You can write a book around that paper. You can extract and write special reports. And you've already done and collected all the work. How many times have you done the research and now you're relying on memory and you've got 15 people who've got to give feedback on this before it's approved, and somebody said something that wasn't perfect for the deliverable you're doing today, and boom, it is lost in your mind due to confusion, just being generally busy. A working paper collects that. A working paper gives you a well to go back to where you can always get that deep, cool water that makes your assignments better, more accurate, faster, and gives you then again those other residual assignments. Hey, you wrote a sales letter for us last year, Or, hey, I wrote a sales letter for you last year. I would love to write some lead generation pieces. I have a few ideas. Would you like to move forward on something like that? This is a powerful thing. Working papers. If you have questions about how to use a working paper to organize your ideas, how to write faster, and how to have more comprehensive and powerful outputs, deliverables to your customers, then contact me at www.adbriefings.co.uk. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefings Copywriting Tips, and we're here to help you write better, run better agencies, get more copywriting assignments, transform your customers' income with words that sell. Thanks for listening.